Thank you all so much for being here and supporting these amazing artists. My name is Badir McCleary. I'm the curator of the show. First of all, I just wanted to say I'm thankful and honored to just be around these amazing artists and amazing people that support these artists, and the work that they do is extremely important. As you see, that's why I want to make sure we record everything and document this, and just to have an opportunity to really understand their practice. I think that's one of the things that's missing in our arts community, is actually talking about the work and not necessarily about transactions. And I'm excited to hear about just how, even though I was a part of it, just how everything came about before I even got, involved in it. So thank you, Skira. Thank you, Sam, for being here. And first of all, I want to thank Skira just for the transformation of the space. When she sent me the photo, it was absolutely amazing. So just going to get some claps for that.
I had great inspiration. Great inspiration.
Oh, it turned out, even when I walked in, I was blown away just by how everything turned out. Like, this is my first time seeing the show. I was actually in Egypt when it opened. I was pissed because I was seeing photos and everything just looked so amazing. But it led me to great questions that I'm hoping to get some cool answers for tonight. So I guess for both of y'all, I just want to just start with, what does duet mean to the both of y'all, knowing your practice is involved with music? And I'll start with you, Skira.
So in terms of duet, in terms of the application for the show, I thought of the fact that we are two artists together, and that we have different voices, but there is a certain pitch that comes about where we become sort of almost one. But even in that oneness, there are two distinct beings happening there to create this beautiful one. Yeah. And I think it worked.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
I think it worked.
What about you, Sam?
We were trying to come up with a title, and she, off the top of her head, she just came up with duet, and I just said, "That's brilliant." You're almost as smart as me.
He actually did say that, and I said, "I'm trying."
So what is it about music that you think is missing in artwork and that you've added to the arts community through the work?
For me, music has always encompassed so much. Like and if I were to just use one word, I would say medicine. Music for me is like a medicine. It can be a balm. It can be something that kind of wakes you up, makes you think, puts you to sleep. It's all of those things. And I think that incorporating one art, because music is an art form, into the visual gives it this breadth and this broadness that is exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
How you gonna top that, Sam?
I can't. Music, for me, I think, because I'm probably a wannabe musician, and that's my way of interpreting music. And it's a way of me getting other people to hear the music, visually, they hear the music.
What's the process in finding the music in, I guess, discarded items? Because when we think of assemblage work, we think of, some of the greats, John Outerbridge, Noah Purifoy, and even going to like Noah's Place, you see things scattered all about. What's the music, what's the rhythm in finding that piece that starts in artwork?
For me, when it comes to my practice, the materials dictate everything. It always starts with the materials for me. And then I feel like, specifically for this show, I would start a piece and then the music would come. Most of the time the music would come after. I didn't know yet.
Yeah.
And I always say, when I have materials in my hand, I have no idea what's going to happen until I put my hands on it. And then it just, there's a moment where I feel like I'm almost just, it's intuitive.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand what's happening. And then there's that click. And it's a beautiful moment when I suddenly understand what I'm doing and what song, what the soundtrack is.
Is that like learning lyrics?
Similar, yes. I would say it is in a sense, yeah. I would say it is. I rarely, in my practice, think of something and then make something. It's usually actually the other way around. I just start making and then it comes what it's going to be about.
Interesting. And Sam, like I've been in your studio plenty of times, and you have music going constantly.
I have to have it.
You have to.
Yeah.
I have to
So
have it.
how are you? How does each song or the combination of the music help you decide which pieces that you're going to start with? Because I mean, I've seen you create so many different things,
Yeah.
and I wonder how you got there. You know, I always think of hearing the soundtrack, and one of, I guess, like, you know, adding on to that question is, what makes you look at a piece and say, this is the great starting point?
For me, if I, you know, I was like ironing board. I might see an old ironing board, and I see a person on it, or I see something that I can do with it. And I think my original vision came from a Betty Saar piece.
I know which piece you're talking about. Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's genius.
That's a great piece.
Yeah, but for me, you know, I'll see, you know, something on the ground, and I'll pick it up. My friends will say, "What are you doing?" You know, I said, see this? This is gold. You know,
Exactly.
I like the process of taking junk and making it into art, making it in things that people see as trash.
Yeah.
I see art out of it.
What do you think is your artistic secret weapon? And what I mean by that is that, you know, we think of, you know, Coltrane and Miles, you know, their trumpet, you know, James Brown, his legs.
Yeah.
What do you think is your secret weapon when you create these works?
I think my secret weapon has always been my upbringing. My parents being raised off grid, being raised in part of a culture where you make something out of nothing. You make something out of something. And so I feel like the fact that I was raised in an environment where your imagination and your creativity is crucial to survival has been a huge, huge secret weapon for me. And the ability, as Sam said, to see other than what it's supposed to be a phone, it's supposed to be keys, it's supposed to be a cup. But when I look at this, I see 2.3 million things.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the decision of what it should be that is the hard part. You know?
And I think you make a great point, is that, you know, the decision. You know, a lot of us, you know, decide to be artists or decide to be curators. I mean, it's not the most profitable thing in the world. You know, so the decision to create is, you know, the key. Like, what makes your decision to create, I don't want to say better than not creating, because, you know, we create something every day, but what makes the decision to create how does it allow you to propel forward, you know, even though you know everybody might not see it, but you still need to get it out? How does that continue to propel you?
And it's actually a very good question, because I've been trying to figure that out as long as I've been doing art. And it's like sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh, I gotta go paint, you know, or I gotta go do something, or you have to come up with an idea, and you just have to do it. It's I don't know what it is. It's something that inherently drives you to do the work.
I think it's one of those things where we don't know how to
Yeah.
not do it.
Yeah.
How not to do it.
We don't know how to not do
Yeah.
it.
When I used to work at Hughes Aircraft, and I used to draw on my the calendar pad that they had on your desk, and every day I would just, you know, out of habit, I can't sit there and not have a pencil in my hand and not doodle. So I doodle these elaborate scenes on these pads, you know, the calendar, and this lady would come by and she'd look at the pad, you know, the progress, and one day she just said, "You don't need to be here," you know, and it didn't click at that time, and to what she was saying, and then one day I just thought, she was right. I don't need to be here.
So how does, I mean, that's a great point too. How does space influence how you see the work? I mean, you know, even when we did the walkthrough of the space in the beginning, you know, I couldn't imagine that it would even look like this. I mean, it turned out so awesome. And just the juke joint vibe gave so much more to the works, you know, even when we were, you know, going over the exhibition design and writing it down, seeing this brought it to life. How did the works change for you as they were going up in this new space? Because, you know, we're used to seeing them in studio spaces and, you know, just hiding in our homes. How did they change for you going up under the lights?
I owe that to Skira. You know, she, like you, she sent me the picture of what she did, and I said, "That's brilliant." You know, again, you're almost as smart as me. You know?
Almost, he says.
How did I'm sorry, are you finished?
No, I was finished.
I was going to say, where did you start with the transformation of the space? How did everything we talked about guide you or give you the idea that, you know what, this is what is needed to complete this project?
I think because I live and work in this space, and I think because I have this music series I've been creating for the past 15 years, it was sort of already done in a sense. And then most of, like, the piano pieces in the corner came from an old piano that was in this building the day I moved in. And the landlord had hired some people to take it out. And I jumped on the back of the truck and started throwing stuff out. So for me, it was a full circle moment. And for me, when we met that day, and I said to you, I really want to do installation. Because that is how the space spoke to me. It was like the space and the theme that we were going to already jived. So it was just an easy sort of, a very easy, it wasn't anything to really think about, it wasn't anything, it just sort of happened almost intuitively or naturally. And it really wasn't much work.
Like when I think about like the juke joint, you know, now living between here and Houston and traveling through the New Orleans, the Alabamas, the Georgias, and thinking about these works and stuff in that context when you visit old plantations and things like that. What does, you know, and even thinking about the community we have here, you know, and like a juke joint was for this amount of people, you know, for the most part in the community.
Exactly.
How does, or I guess better question, what does a juke joint mean to you as far as, you know, not just a place to house music, creativity,
It's a
but
safer space. And so this space, I've been here for about 15 years, and above anything else, this is a safer space for people, especially folks of color. And so everything sort of hinges off of that. And for me, the idea of a juke joint, and we could be talking about a barber shop. We could be talking about certain places where rituals take place, spirituality, different philosophies, religions like churches, mosques, things like that. They are safer spaces. And so for me, this is always, the goal for this space is to be a safer space. And it's so in line with what juke joints really were. Juke joints started in people's living rooms, in shotgun shacks.
literally,
right? And before that, it was in the backwoods after midnight, right? After the sun went down and the cotton picking was done. So it's so in line with having this sort of already is kind of like a juke joint in a sense that it is a safer space.
And when I mentioned that because, you know, of course everybody for the most part has seen Sinners, You know, and when Sam and I talked, and I was like, you know, a lot of your work aligns with the theme that was going on in that
Perfect
movie.
timing.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought about, like, even thinking now, you know, this space and seeing the movie, it was this kind of space with these type of different types of people that made the film what it is. So it's very cool to just have this very intimate type of space. Sam, like, thinking about that film, how do you think your work has been brought into the contemporary space now? Because, you know, for years we've talked about jazz stuff, we've done different shows, but it seems that people are now starting to understand, you know, the musicality, you know, and the history inside of the contemporary space now.
Good question too. I don't know. For me, it's always been the music, you know, and when I've never been to a juke joint, but I see pictures.
Yeah.
And my Uncle Paul and my grandfather used to make their own booths, and they had like a little juke joint in the back. You know, all the adults would come and party over there.
Oh yeah.
And so I remember that, you know. And my dad was a big blues guy, and my mom was the opposite. She liked jazz, so I got the best of both worlds, you know. And the music has always been, I can't do art without music.
Yeah.
You know? And it's always, if it's like somebody will just say, Ria asked me to do a portrait of her. It'll take me 6 months before I do it. And if it's music related, I do it in 2 days, you know, or an hour, you know. But if it's not music related, I just have no interest in doing it, you know.
So what is it about, I guess, art, music, and placement that allows this show to take place? And what I mean by that is that, you know, organizing the art, understanding the meaning that you want for your practice, intertwining it, and then bringing it to a space. Tell us about that practice. How does all that materialize, drive you crazy? You know, what have you learned? You know, what have you learned about yourself, you know, in doing this show? You know, different from other shows, different from a production, just being able to put something together, you know, and have it turn out to be, you know, something that people can enjoy.
I think for me, a big lesson I learned is to continue to trust my intuition, and also that I feel like we are doing something that we have, like it's in our DNA. Like the knowledge is there, the ancestral knowledge is already there. We just have to sort of tap into it.
Yeah.
So I felt like all of a sudden my hand was placed on the tap root. I was like, I got my hand on the tap root, like the granddaddy, you know, grandma. And it felt like almost like a coming home, like a return to something, right? And almost like, okay, we're experts in this. Like this isn't new. And this is not something that others have handed to us, and we have to figure it out. We kind of can tap into this and bring forth, but at the same time relying on all the past, but giving it this futuristic kind of touch to it to say, we were here, we are here, and we will always be here.
Add on to that, Sam.
The question was the process?
Yeah, like what did you learn from the process? How did it, you know, change how you see work, how you do things, especially from other shows that, you know, we've done and other shows that you've been a part of, you know, just how is it changing?
For me, it's being more professional, you know, and taking a step up of somebody left the door unlocked. it's you know, I got more of input or had more say in doing this, and you know, working with Skira, we thought the same. We had the same thought process, and I think that's what made our work
Yeah.
kind of gel together.
So how did, I know Sam has been a part of, you know, a lot of different things and fairs and things like that. You've been more on the production side. So how did his stress of preparing for an exhibition influence you?
I think, well, I don't know that, it definitely did not influence me in a negative way.
Yeah, of course.
I really feel like I'm sort of new to this kind of scene, and so I really look to Sam as an example. And Sam is so laid back and kind of has this attitude of like, stressing about it isn't going to change anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think you're overthinking it, Skira. He would say that to me, and it would stop me, and I would be like, okay, I'm overthinking it. Okay, so I'm not going to overthink it.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was great to have Sam there and to have like that steady, kind of quiet, kind of. I think we made a good match because at the same time there were times where Sam was like, and I'd be like, no, lighten the fire. I think we complemented each other. Like
Yeah.
I was able to like take a step back and kind of tone it down, and he was able to kind of push it up a bit. And so I feel like there was this seesaw of like that just really made things compatible, where it could have been disastrous, but it was actually very compatible.
Yeah. The idea of combining myself, I was trying to push her out to do this by herself, and she kept saying, "No, you need to do this. You know, when are we gonna do this?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I guess I'm stuck." But it was originally meant for her to get more exposure.
See, the funny thing is he was talking about doing a solo show and getting ready for a solo show, and I was like, you should have it at my space. It's here for you if you need it.
Yeah.
And as he was talking about his solo show, he was like, what about you? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get out of the warehouse. Like nobody sees what you're doing. Nobody knows what you do. Get out there. And so there was this kind of push and pull, and I was like, I'm not ready yet. You know, you need to just do your solo show. And then at some point it became, like I said, well, why don't, since you're not going to do a solo show and I'm not ready to do a solo show, why don't we just do a show together?
Yeah.
And then that'll be our first kind of, you know, our kind of thing.
That's awesome. So like one of the things that I've, you know, always enjoyed when I've checked out different works, you know, across the world is like, you know, the artwork as the artist's portrait. You know, which one of these artworks would you think would be your self-portrait in this show? What would define your practice, your work, you for this show?
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is very tough. It's very tough, you know.
Because I'm in every piece. Every piece I can say, but I would say probably the juke joint.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'm really good at, like, I gotta make something, I don't have any money, I can't leave the building, what do I have on hand that I can make something with?
Yeah.
And how can I do it real quick and just, don't think about it, just do. Just do.
Yeah.
You know, so I think probably the installation is very much in that vein of, you know, we might not have the traditional resources, the traditional team, and all of that stuff, but I come from a culture and from a people. Look what we did to Oxtail. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things you can look at and say, like, look what we did.
Yeah.
So I think it's the idea of like not having, but succeeding with what you do have, and recognizing that what we do have is amazing. Can be amazing.
Brother Sam?
A piece that
Like
drove
one
me
that-
crazy.
Yeah, like, or just defined you. That could be the same thing.
Yeah. I'd say I'm more like crazy. I think the saxophone. Because you know how long I talked about it. This thing went on for years. And I couldn't figure it out, you know. And then I went to the master, Mr. Dixon, and he had it on in 10 minutes. And I said, oh, I can work from there.
Yeah.
And then I was putting the feathers in one at a time. And I spoke to Skira about it. She says, oh, they make rolls of feathers. I said, oh, you know. And so I did it that way.
Yeah.
And probably when the show's over, I'll throw it away. But that piece drove me crazy.
That piece started off with, this is the piece de la resistance. This is the showstopper.
Yeah.
And then the day of the show, he's like, I don't even want it in here.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't need to put that there. I'm over it.
I had a lot of second thoughts about it. You know.
Yeah.
It just, that, you know.
Sometimes you live with something so long and it drives you crazy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to step back from it.
Yeah.
You will appreciate it a month from now.
Yeah.
You'll be like,
Yeah.
this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because I personally love it.
I do too. I do too.
But, you know, I don't want to do all the talking, so I wanted to take any questions from our beloved, you know, guests tonight. So if anyone has any questions about the work or the show for these amazing artists, please step forward. Yes, sir.
Could you talk about what opening night was like? I saw the pictures and I was like, I don't want to be anywhere but there. But I'm just, you know, it looked crowded and just sort of people just really engaging with the work. So yeah, how was, amidst the, you know, stress of getting there, how was opening night?
Yeah. Opening night was stressful. You know, once the people got here, you know, I got more relaxed, but, you know, I didn't think about it until the day of the show. And then I started having doubts about, oh, I shouldn't have put this piece in there. This looks horrible, you know. But other than that, it was actually a really nice night. You know, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. You know.
I think opening night was a blur for the most part. It was, I felt quite overwhelmed. It was my first kind of experience like this. And so it was a bit of a blur, a bit overwhelming. But at one point, everything just kind of settled in, and I saw the possibilities. I saw the possibilities for artists in LA, for Black artists in LA, for the space, for the community, and it was exciting. It felt like the beginning of something. And so I think I came into it stressed out, and I think at one point I was making myself a little inaccessible because it was just too much for me, and I was flitting about, and then I had to sort of check myself and be like, hey, calm down, be accessible, this is, you know, and that's when it started to get better. But I had to kind of talk to myself and say, hey, stay present, don't hide, you know, stay present, be here. I felt very vulnerable because I'm so used to just being in my studio. For years I made work, I tore it apart, I remade it, I never showed it to anyone. I didn't know what I was doing was even considered art until I went somewhere and saw Charles Dixon's piece. And I realized, oh wow, other people make things out of things, like auto parts and things, and it's art.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, so it was much the same experience. All in all, a great experience, what I can remember.
Anyone else?
Oh,
Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go.
we're not even answering any questions. What do you want?
So, after this experience, and you might have thought about it, but you're still in the moment of present with this wonderful exhibition.
I didn't hear the last part.
So what do you see go forward? What do you see in the future? Now that you've done this,
Oh,
are you inspired to, what do you think now that you've done this will prepare you to do something different that you didn't do before?
New York.
Oh, yeah.
I always try to set goals
Good. Yes.
for myself. It may happen, but
Yes.
if I have a choice, it'll happen. I want New York, Paris, Italy, and that, I want to get beyond local.
Senegal and Ghana.
Yeah, I want to go to Africa.
So you should.
Oh, you should.
Oh, I
Everybody
do.
says I
do.
should.
You
Yeah.
should.
I just-
The cross culture.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Your DNA.
for sure.
I might go.
We going.
For sure.
I think for me, it has inspired me to not hold back. That none of my ideas are actually crazy. They mean something, they are something. And it's also inspired me to look more into installation work, because it's something I've always intuitively wanted to do and I've done since I was a child, making these little installations. But I didn't know that that's what I was doing. And I did push myself into the film world and announce one day, I'm a set builder. And I had no experience, but I knew I could do it. And in the film world, I make installations. They call them sets, but I know they're installations. And so now, I think the biggest thing is after this for me is just no more holding back, no more tethering myself. It's just full force ahead. No more doubts.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, one of the things I would love to see going forward, and that I was been working for, is like actually seeing this show in the South. Trying, being that, like I mentioned earlier, just traveling through the southern states and seeing these actual structures still up. Shotgun houses, places, plantations, spaces that are available for use. I mean, I don't know how you can get everyone out there to see a show, but just having something like that in that space, seeing how it's, translated, seeing these shows, like all of these works in a random shotgun house in Montgomery, Alabama.
Ooh, that would be amazing.
I think the context adds so much more to what actually happened in the lands, to what's actually happening in our contemporary world. So I think that would be very cool. And also just to see, what else they create, because they're always, making something super cool. So, that's my thing. But,
That's exciting, because it's
yeah.
more site specific.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it has an extra level of history.
Yes.
Just recently, visiting plantations, going to the legacy sites with the Equal Justice Initiative, and seeing those things and these stories that are encompassed in these works. It fits in that space, in that space being just tons and tons of acres of land that has these stories embedded in them. So that's my hope for the show, and something that I've been personally working on and trying to make happen. And so, yeah, just keep pushing it forward, and just having this as a starting point to show, I think is a great initiator. So yeah, I'm happy. But yeah, we don't want to keep everybody so long with chatting. Everybody says, I'm just want to say I'm thankful for Skira and Sam, just for their ideas, their hospitality, and thankful to you all just for sitting here listening to us babble. And just the interest in, these amazing artists and their work. And yeah, thank y'all so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I can see that as a documentary.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's so much.
You may not have many people as wide of an audience like in the Little South. So it's a documentary.
Absolutely right.
I
Absolutely
think
right.
you're right.
because there's so many of
And the soundtrack that goes
the
with it.
yeah, there's so many of these spaces, you know, that are just around. Like there's nothing happening,
Yeah.
and like literally off of the freeway, you know,
Yeah.
like the 10 goes through, you know, all of everything, you know, and just starting through like a Texas. I mean, it has, each state has its own specific history for black people, going all the way to Alabama, where you can go to the EJI and just see it like all. And it's, you know, connecting it with the stories that we already know and stories that we don't know. It's literally a learning journey up the 10 going through there. So it's like trying to see curatorial work in more of a realistic, you know, aspect, where you start to relate things to actual history instead of just the transactional vibe. I think that's really important, to just not just me trying to tell a story through the artist's works, but the artist actually getting the content for future storytelling. So, you know, that's my goal. So, all right, I'm done talking.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Badir.
y'all.
Thank you so much.